So, Dillion Whyte versus Joseph Parker on the 28th of July at the O2 Arena in London. This is a very, very close fight. Um, I'm going back and forth almost on a daily basis as to how I think this is sort of going to pan out and who's ultimately going to win. Numbers wise, they're very similar. White's got 24 fights, I believe, with Parker with 25. Um, they've got a very similar knockout ratio with White on 71 and Park on 72, I believe. And they're both 6'4", and there's about a 2-inch reach difference in the favour of White, I think. And also, the only loss is against a common foe in Anthony Joshua. So when you look at it on paper, nothing jumps out in terms of what the differentiator is going to be or who's got the edge. The only probably pro that White, while sorry, Parker has over White is he's a former world champion, so he's fought in the championship fights. But on the flip side, he's based out of New Zealand, and no disrespect to New Zealand, but it's in the corner of the world where most of the global boxing fans probably don't pay too much attention on, unless you're based, in New Zealand, Australia, or in and around that part of the world. And that played a huge part into probably why the Parker and Joshua fight was not as exciting, because I think there was a great unknown about Parker. Most people have never seen him live. Um, they would have probably just seen clips on YouTube, and YouTube can make anyone look good or bad, however you want to edit it. So I think that probably plays a big part into to why Joshua may have been a bit hesitant in terms of letting his hands go, just because we just don't know. He's a bit of an unknown entity. If Joshua was to fight him again tomorrow, I think Joshua will go for it more. But then Parker could argue that he knows a little bit more about Joshua, and he would have gone for it. Um, White, on the flip side, when he lost to Joshua, they were both at different stages in their career. White was fighting a relatively inexperienced Joshua, but then White would argue that he had a shoulder issue in the second round onwards, so that inhibited him from having a real go at it. Whereas Parker fought a Joshua of today, a unified champion who's defended his belt multiple times, who has been there, done that. He's at the top of the tree. So Parker fought a better Joshua, but White probably wasn't as healthy as he would have liked to have been to be able to put his mark down and put his best performance forward. So both of them will look back at the Joshua fights, and they will probably both be disappointed, obviously, with how it ultimately ended, but they will definitely both be disappointed with their performance for different reasons. So enough about Joshua, because it seems like his name is in every heavyweight's mouth, but it is what it is, because that's what everyone's striving to be and to ultimately face, and to make that money. Um, so back to the actual fights between Parker and White. In terms of their most recent performances, White's last one was against Lucas Brown. Now, he knocked out Lucas Brown in spectacular fashion. I mean, that knockout was so vicious that they didn't even show the replay. They just literally cut to the White's corner, went to an ad, came back and spoke to White, and we didn't get to see the knockout. I had to wait till the next day to go onto YouTube to look for the knockout just to see it again, because obviously it was an explosive one, and I'm just glad that Lucas Brown's fingers and toes are still working. Um, Prior to Joshua, Parker's fight was with, I think, Hughie Fury, actually, and I watched that fight, and again, it wasn't the most entertaining fight. I think Hughie Fury had a big part to play in why that was. He was trying to be very elusive. He wasn't being offensive enough, and ultimately, quite rightly, he didn't pick up the win, and Parker got the win. But he didn't look great in that. But you can only fight what's put in front of you, and if that fighter is not willing to engage, then it's not going to make for a great fight. But nevertheless, he picked up the W. He defended his belt yet again, and he moved on to the Joshua fight to make the bigger money. Um, as for my prediction between the two when they eventually face off, it's hard to say. If there was to fight tonight, and I was sort of backed into the corner, I was forced to make a decision as to who I think will win, I'd probably just go with Parker, and only just. And I'm not a betting man, but even if I was, I wouldn't put any money on it because I think it's that close. Ultimately, it's going to come down to how each fighter feels on the night. I think the first couple of rounds is going to be more of a probing expedition. I don't think any of them are going to go for it relatively early on while they sort of feel each other out. And then hopefully it will then explode into a great fight. One of the things to look out for White is White can be very emotional. To be fair, he hasn't shown that as much in the last couple of fights actually, but it's always there. It's an underlying um, character trait that I don't think will ever go away. Um, so if Parker was was clever and he can maybe get under his skin, potentially he can sort of evoke that sort of emotion from White for him to not to go off piste and to not follow the game plan. Um, and I hate to go back to Joshua again, but that's the reason why Joshua is world champion. Well, one of the reasons is because he's able to enable a fight plan. I think he listens to his corner, he listens to his advisors, he listens to his trainers. And I think he then goes out and he basically does that. And then if on the fly he needs to make decisions, as any great fighter has to, Mayweather being probably one of the greatest, he's able to make those adjustments, on the fly, mid fight, and get the W. And I think that's why he's a couple notches above these two fighters. Parker probably is too far one way, where he listens to a fight plan or game plan and then he just sticks to it. Um, I didn't see a lot of adjustments from him in the Joshua fight. Joshua was fighting smart. Joshua was fighting long. He was using his height. He was using his reach. He was using his size. And yes, the ref didn't help because every time they were trying to fight on the inside, he would sort of break them up. So maybe I'm doing a disservice a little bit to Parker by you know saying that he wasn't able to adjust on the night because he was slightly handicapped. But then that goes for both the fighters, and I think Josh was excellent on the inside. I think he wasn't able to utilize his uppercuts and his body shots because of the ref. But then Park will argue that his game plan relied heavily on him being able to close the distance and to be able to fight on the inside. So hopefully we have a ref on the 28th that allows them both to fight. I think Dillion, his ring name tells it all in the body stature. I think he's excellent with the body shots. The body shots are, for me, still heavily underutilized in the heavyweight division. We don't see enough of it, I don't think. And White, he excels at that, and that could be a very useful weapon for him. Because size-wise, again, they're not that dissimilar. I think White's probably a little bit heavier, but only just. But height and reach, pretty much spot on. So hopefully we get an entertaining fight. I don't, part of me is slightly worried that it may turn into a bit of a bore fest, um, which is why I hope, after the first couple of rounds, something happens, whether it's a knockdown or, someone accusing someone of, a low blow or, a punch off the bell, something to ignite the fight, to get the crowd off their feet and to not turn it nasty, but to add a little bit of an edge to it where they're both looking to knock each other out. And if we do get multiple knockdowns from one or the other each, then I want to see whoever is potentially behind going for it, and looking for that knockout. Um, Again, very similar to what happened with Joshua and Klitschko, where Joshua went life and death with Klitschko, and he decided, I'm not going to go to the scorecards. I'm gonna go for it. And then in, what was it, the 10th or 11th round, he just went for it. And I hope, in terms of the flow, I hope it's very similar to this fight, where we get a lot of ups and downs, a lot of drama, and then hopefully a knockout or multiple knockdowns, and but ultimately a very entertaining fight. Um, but again, if I was to be back to the corner today to make a decision on who I felt was going to win that, I think I'll just go with Parker, but only just. I think being a former world champion who lost his belt in the UK, where he'd probably be very disappointed with his performance, I think he wants to sort of remedy that. But credit to White and to Parker, they didn't duck each other. It was a fight neither of them had to take. It's a very risky fight, but high rewards. It's just a shame that this isn't a WBC final eliminator for the Wilder fight, because the stakes would have been increased tenfold if this was to then go on to fight Wilder in their next fight, and that would be fantastic. Imagine that, you know, Wilder having coming off an Ortiz win, then having to face either Whyte or Parker, and then getting the Joshua fight. Maybe then after that, people will stop having a go at his resume, because then he can say, I've had Ortiz, I've had Whyte or Parker, and I've had Joshua back to back, and then we can start looking at it saying, actually, and obviously he wins them all, then you'll start really looking at him saying, okay, maybe you are the real deal. But I can't wait for the fight. I hope it's entertaining. I hope everyone gets their money's worth. The undercard, I don't think has been finalised, but there's Takam and Chisora on as well. That should be an interesting fight. I think Takam will probably win that, but who knows with Chisora? It depends on whether or not he wants to turn up or not. But it should be a good night overall. But I think again Parker will just edge it, but only just.